Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome you to our June 22nd, 2023 council meeting. In the interest of time efficiency, ensuring that everyone who wishes to address the council is given the opportunity to do so, the following will apply to all comments made by the public. If you desire to be recognized by the chair, please fill out a request form and present it to the city clerk present here in council chambers. Each speaker shall be allotted 3 minutes to address the council unless such time is extended by the mayor or by questions from council. Groups shall designate a spokesperson to avoid repetition of comments. Every effort will be made to avoid interrupting speakers. Thank you for participating in your city government, and we ask that you please silence all electronic devices. With that, I call this meeting to order. Could we please stand for our invocation? I'd like to welcome Pastor David Nye from Christ Our Savior Fellowship, who will come and bring our invocation. Please remain standing afterwards for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we approach you this evening with a grateful heart, thanking you for another day of life and thanking you for all the wonderful gifts you shower upon us. I ask your blessing upon these council members as they discuss the issues concerning our city, and give them wisdom and discernment regarding any decisions that will be voted upon during this meeting. We also ask your blessing upon all the citizens of our city, state, and nation. We ask this in the name of our Lord and Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, and it's in his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Nye. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, you please call the roll.
Mayor Blackwell?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Here.
Councilmember Matheny?
Here.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Here.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Here.
I'd like to ask our city manager if she has any updates to the agenda that you need to bring to our attention.
Yes, please. The OUC presentation will be postponed until July 27th.
Thank you.
Additionally, if anyone is here for the Delaware Preserve item, it was inadvertently advertised as a public hearing, but it is not. So your opportunity to speak would be when the mayor opens the consent agenda to the public. And we would like to pull item C off of the consent agenda.
Item C will be pulled from the consent agenda. That brings us to our Citizens Forum. If anyone desires to comment on any item not on the agenda, you are provided this opportunity to address the City Council. Each person is requested to complete a signing form to be provided to the presiding officer prior to or as soon as is practical after the person addresses the council. When you come forward, we ask that you please state your name and address for the record, and please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Do we have anyone who would like to speak to the council during the Citizens Forum? If not, we will move on to the next. I see the city manager, you have an item?
Yes, I have 2 items to discuss. Thank you. Item J, for the City Council's information, the traffic impact analysis has been completed since the agenda was published. So this reduces the total credits by approximately $500,000. So please add the condition that the agreement will be modified upon the county's approval of the traffic impact analysis, upon which the required improvements and contributions will be adjusted to match the traffic impact analysis and confirmed actual costs. If the council is in agreement, there's no need for a separate vote.
Okay.
Additionally, during the city council briefings, it was requested that I reintroduce an automatic increase for the fees to avoid having large increases at one time and to keep up with inflation. I'm going to pass this out so you can see the proposed language. So to accommodate this request, the city attorney drafted the following language to be added as a new section 2 for items A and B on the consent agenda. The language is as follows. Beginning October 1st, 2024, the fees and charges as adopted and implemented by this resolution shall be increased effective as of October 1st, and each October 1st thereafter by an amount equal to the percentage increase in the Consumer Price Index for all urban customers for the South Region, CPI, published by the United States Bureau of Labor Statistics for the immediate preceding year times the rates and charges in effect on September 30th of the prior year. If the city council is in agreement, there's no need for a separate vote. Just please include this within your motion.
Okay. Well, we're jumped right ahead to our consent agenda. Let me introduce that. The next portion of tonight's meeting is the consent agenda, which contains items that have been determined to be routine and non-controversial. If anyone in the audience wishes to address a particular item on the consent agenda, you will be given the opportunity to do so. Additionally, if staff or members of the city council wish to speak on a consent item, they will have the same opportunity. Our city manager has already addressed several items. Would any of the council members have an item on the agenda that you're wanting to address?
F and H
H,
and F. Yes, sir.
H, and F. Councilmember Matheny?
C, and then he did F and H. J for a separate vote, and
Did you started off with J, right?
C,
B,
cat.
C as in cat.
I pulled.
It's already been pulled.
Okay, that you're going to consent, okay. F and H he did. J for pull for a separate vote, and L pull for discussion. And Mayor, you already opened this to, if anybody had comments on the consent?
No, I haven't done that
Okay.
yet. Okay, let me see if I got all this. Are there any of the items that you need to re-clarify, Ms. Manager?
No, I'm sorry, I got excited and I said that during the, the
Okay.
citizens forum.
All right. Item F, Mr. Gilbert?
Yes. Who do we address this to?
Do you have questions?
Yes.
Start with the city manager.
Okay. The renovations that are made, they're made on the three facilities, correct?
Yes.
And some of these renovations are made because of vandalism and age of the facilities?
That's
Is
my
that correct?
understanding.
Okay. I just looked at the cost, and it was quite exorbitant, but I did notice that we are putting in stainless steel urinals and toilets and commodes to eliminate some of that vandalism. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, because this is something that, if we keep reoccurring, it's going to cost the citizens a lot of money, but if we put stuff in there, it's tougher than them, maybe it'll stay a little longer. So I just wanted to clarify that it will be the upgraded stainless steel industrial bathrooms, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Gilbert, you want to speak to item H?
Yeah, item H, we had a conversation with back in January about keeping labor agreements and retention of janitorial services here for the city, correct? This agreement here is for a one-year period of time with the labor finders, also known as their LF Pierce out of Florida, to provide labor for janitorial services and other labor, correct?
Yes, they've currently been helping us.
They have? Okay, I noticed on August 24th that May 24th that the quote was delivered, and then I heard subsequently just the other day that this will be going out to bid to subcontractors, and that was done on the 25th of May, and all the vendors now are closed for that, for the RFP to handle custodial services for St. Cloud.
So there's two separate items, but I'm going to ask our procurement
Thank you.
director to come up and address.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, Leslie Flores, Procurement Services Director.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for all you do. I know you do a wonderful job, and we appreciate that. On the 24th of May, we went into agreement with Labor Finders to provide services for janitorial services, and so somewhere around $31 a piece, of which sounds good. Then also, what I understood that I didn't know about until today is that we've put this out for bid for all janitorial services under a separate agreement, and that went out on May 25th.
I don't have the date in front of me, but around that date,
From
yes.
what I
Uh-huh.
researched, that went out. And there was 20 people in attendance and 10 vendors bid on that?
No. So they attended the mandatory pre-bid meeting.
Okay.
So in order to bid on the solicitation, they have to attend that
The
meeting.
mandatory meeting. And those are publicly announced?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Now, is that bid going on square footage? Is it going on time and material or just time?
Square footage,
Square footage. And that's complete in services. Does that include the materials or just the time?
correct.
So
All
square footage-
chemicals,
oh,
paper products, everything.
Okay, good. And when do you expect that back?
Oh, I don't have that date in front of me, but
Okay.
I can look it up. And
How long
provide
is
it
the
to you.
agreement for?
3 years with 2 one-year renewals.
Okay, great. How did you do your due diligence to find the companies that do cleaning? Did you use, sometimes I don't know if they like to use Piggyback here or Me Too, that other counties and cities and such do that? Is that the way we got our vendors, or how did
No,
we
this
do our
is
diligence?
this is a solicitation.
Okay.
So it has a scope of work, and it has requirements that they have to meet.
Okay.
So if they can meet those, when they submit their bid, we will review them against the criteria
Okay.
and the ITB and the pricing and award,
Okay,
if they meet the criteria.
okay. And there's recommendations from other cities or municipalities that use their services?
We use our subject matter expert, the Public Works Director, and our own team, and we have looked at other solicitations that other agencies have issued.
Yeah, again, this is one of the departments, it's hard for retention.
Correct.
And we have a lot of other needs, so I think this could be a good thing for the city.
Absolutely.
But it could be a cost-effective thing for the city also to have that done, because we're actually having experts do that.
Right.
Do that stuff. All right, I just need that explanation on that, and I
Sure.
appreciate everything you do.
Sure, thank you.
Brings us to item J. Ms. Matheny?
I just want to pull that for a separate vote.
Okay, we can do that now. Do you have any discussion?
No.
Do I have a motion for the adoption? Wait a second. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to item J? Please come forward.
Good evening, Joe Thacker, 17 South Orlando Avenue, Kissimmee. I needed to understand the city manager's change on the 500,000 because we weren't aware of that, and so I just needed to get some more information.
Because the condition was put on the department summary and it was not put in the resolution. So I was cleaning up the fact that that condition was in the department summary. That was part of the agenda package, but it wasn't actually on the resolution.
But I'm not sure why the amount got decreased.
Because the traffic impact analysis was completed and it has already come in less than what was estimated on this agenda item.
So the TIA, we didn't get anything that said it was approved by the city or the county yet.
So the city approved it since we received it, since they're nodding behind me,
Okay.
clarifying that.
Okay.
And then the county has not, so that's why we were saying once the county does approve it, that the agreement would need to be revised.
Okay, does that mean it would come back? Or
No.
it could be revised? So there are some mathematical errors also in the exhibits, Exhibit D. Can we fix that at the same time?
I have to see what Exhibit D is, or look at staff. Are you guys familiar with the mathematical issues? Dave?
Dave, you need to come up here if you're going to speak.
So for the traffic impact analysis, they'll establish the proportionate share and the estimated costs. What the agreement does is it ties the improvements that are approved as part of the traffic improvement analysis, and it also approves the not the methodology, the numbers that result for the proportionate share. And then when they actually do the improvements based on the actual cost, then that's where the reimbursed fee credits come. So the adjustments in the formulas, I was told, actually resulted in a reduction in some of the fee credits from the city. The approval is up to $2.4 million. Their estimate now says that it could potentially be as low as 1.9.
Thank you.
You have any other? No, sir. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion for the adoption of item J, resolution number 2023-132R. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion?
I'm just a little bit confused, everything getting thrown around here. Does this need to be maybe continued to an additional meeting until all of this is worked out, or I'm not sure.
Ms. Stack, would you like to speak to this?
I would. Because it also deals with the real estate contract, that is the reason why I would like to go ahead and get it approved tonight in order for the contract for deposits to be made timely. So that is, those would be at risk. The whole contract would be at risk if it's not.
Understood.
And I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, just to clarify, the condition that I added was already in the department summary. It just really wasn't on the resolution itself. So the fact that the agreement would be modified at the end of the traffic impact analysis was going to happen. It just happens that the traffic impact analysis was done since the agenda was published on Friday. So it was just done, and it was just reviewed by staff. So I was just informing the council that it has been, so the cost is estimated to be reduced by $500,000. And it's approximate, since it sounds like there's some numbers in there.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve it.
We have a motion from Councilmember Urban. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
No.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
No.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-2.
Brings us to item L. Ms. Matheny, are you wanting to speak to this also?
Yes, please. Okay, so in our agenda packet, we had a preliminary site plan for the Delaware Avenue townhomes. And so when I had my agenda review, I expressed my concerns about 9 driveways directly connecting to Delaware, as well as some other items. So I don't know if everyone has a copy. I know that the city manager reached out to the engineer of record and gave him the comments, and then he was able to quickly re-judge the site plan to something that I think is, for me, a more pleasing to not have the 9 driveways directly onto Delaware and that curve, and that's also the access for most of the school teachers and the school buses. You know, I just was like, that was a big concern for me, and so he was able to quickly in draft form, make some changes, and I know that Mr. Tomac was going to provide a comment to everybody. I still, seeing how this is preliminary, there were still a few issues that I had that I think we can address with staff. Because once we approve this, as long as it conforms with this plan, unless I'm wrong, city manager, it will be a staff approval for the construction plans. So I just wanted to add a few other items to this. And I think the engineer's here. I see him back there. So and he can have an opportunity to come up and agree or disagree. One of the items that we had talked about with previous council was we didn't want to have any more mulch trails. I think that was before you two came in, and I believe there was direction from council at the time because it just ends up being a maintenance issue. It rains, it washes away, it just becomes a whole thing, and so we just said no more mulch trails. Obviously, this is a conceptual site plan, and so it'll have to meet all the engineering requirements. I know that this was just a quick turnaround that he did. One of the questions I really have for council is, you can see there's a 50-foot dedicated right-of-way in between the townhomes. And I was like, does the city really want to have that right-of-way or just make it part of the development? The development's responsible for the maintenance of that piece. And then one of my concerns was the access to Track C, which you see is on the very northeast corner of the parcel. So there's only a 25-foot tract there. So I just wanted to make sure, because we've had previously since I've been on council, where we've said things about access and the way we want connections to happen, and then the city tries to help the applicant and gives them building permits, and then they find out they can't do it, and then they've already built it, and then we're stuck with stuff that isn't what we want. It kind of puts us in a bad spot. So I just wanted to make sure that, this is not access big enough for really anything of a commercial size or anything like that. It would have to be like, I don't know, did you tell me it was like a couple townhomes could go back there, potentially?
I don't think we analyzed that.
But I just want to make sure that's, I want to make sure that staff gets everything buttoned up in a row before we move to the next step. Kind of like the confusion we have here that things are on the agenda before the traffic impact is available, or things are on the agenda before it goes to DRC, which I'll be talking about that in my time later. But just kind of give that. And then it says that he's wanting a few variances in the setbacks, but I think he can meet the setbacks that our code requires, and so that would be my request for that too. And those are just my comments for that.
Mr. Tomac?
Just to clarify.
State your name and address.
Dave Tomac, Assistant City Manager. Just to clarify, the access for Track C, there is a condition in there. So basically, if it's just a driveway they're showing, you could probably approve a pond or some kind of flood mitigation or something that doesn't require any kind of subdivision at all. Maybe a house with a driveway, that's about it.
Okay.
So you can't do any real subdivision. I don't think that's the intent anyway. There's a lot of wetlands around there. So my guess it's going to turn into something stormwater or quality related.
Okay. And that's all my comments that I had.
Would you like to speak?
Good evening, Todd Hudson, Hudson Engineering, agent for the applicant and property owner. We're okay with everything that we've submitted and Ms. Matheny has talked about. I think, we could go private road if you guys want to. I don't see a problem there. The only thing, just to mention, the Track C, the intent was really just to have it there from a dirt perspective. Obviously, land is worth something. It could be sold to, let's say, the guy, if the farm to the east wants to sell there that's still vacant, it could be sold to them, which could become
Sure.
pond or townhomes at that point. But no intent really to develop it at all, just to leave it there for some kind of pond, or maybe the school board wants it because they now own all of that land to the south, all the old Furtick pieces, I guess. So who knows? They may want to use it for compensation or something, so. we'll go
Okay.
from there. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to this item? Do we have further discussion from the council then? Do I have a motion?
So, Mr. Mayor,
Clarify your motion.
Mr. Tomac gave me some language here that I'm just going to read and pretend like I thought of all this myself.
So he has here a bullet for me. Approval of the PSP, the new concept we're just looking at, with the conditions I discussed, does not constitute approval of the plan as presented. It is approved in concept only and will have to meet all the requirements of the Land Development Code prior to approval of the subdivision construction plan and final plat. So with that, I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny with additions and a second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
At this time, we'll take comment regarding item M. Mr. Furtick. I have Mr. Jerome Furtick.
Good evening. Jerome Furtick, 50 Furtick Road, St. Cloud, Florida. Councilmember, Mayor, how y'all doing?
Very good.
I'd like to speak on M. First of all, I'd like to say 3 addresses next to this project, and with landowner, most of the project on the edge of it, never received 1 letter from the start of this project till now. So I think you're in violation of notification of the project for public hearings unless you've changed what you do up here. I'm asking.
This is a preliminary subdivision plan, and there's no advertising requirement for that. Now, the prior approvals that I think you're mentioning,
Right.
I'm happy to have staff look into all of the advertising that was done and provide that to you.
Do we still get mailed letters?
Yes.
So if we have 3 addresses and no one got one, how did it even get approved without any hearings?
So the zoning was back in 2017. That would have
Okay.
been when the advertisements and the mailings were.
So the original plan that was approved, that I pulled up to make a decision, showed no road on Furtick Road going through. What is pushing Furtick Road to go through?
I'd have to ask staff that reviewed this plan, if the
So the
council would like
original,
that.
what my point I'm asking too, if we can get an answer on that, is even if I would have got a letter, how can I even have a decision and make any educated decision to come and fight something or be for something? And then you approve it, and then you change master plans, and no one even gets a notification. So, something to think about, but I'm waiting for an answer if you don't mind. There's 2 other people that have pulled for M, so if I run out of time, is it okay if I speak just, I don't want to take your whole night, but if I don't want to run out of time because I want to show you some pictures of what's going on in this area and, let you kind of see why Furtick Road doesn't make sense to me.
You need to move along.
Okay? Am I allowed to take their time also?
We'll let them come up, and if they can help walk you through it.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so first picture I'd like to show. So if you can see the yellow line, and if you zoom in a little bit, you can see the ownership of who owns on that road that you're trying to propose with this development to come through. Most of the road is owned by, us as the Furticks in that area. So you're going to have to buy a right-of-way unless you're doing like a 20-foot road. So I don't know what you're gaining with that. And if y'all are telling me you want connectivity to Canoe Creek Road, it kind of got messed up with your development there with a pond in the middle of Furtick Road where the red line is. So there's no connectivity whatsoever to go to any other major road other than Michigan Avenue, which is failing. Then if you look at the green line, that is the school board that was given tons of land. And there's a gas line. So you could go next to the gas line, which you can see Ronan Bridge owns most of that land down that section. So why aren't they using that as their road access? It would get you closer to school. It's right next to the school bus barn. And if you can see, it's all school board property in Ronan. So why are they trying to come across property they don't own? That's my question to you.
Do you have any other comment to make?
I do, but must see.
Seth Burdick, 55.
Okay,
Purdy Road.
Seth?
Yeah, we have another comment.
So I would just like to mention that there's other, I'm not just coming here to complain or have problems, that I'm trying to come up with solutions for you also to look at, because I know this is just drawings. Engineers draw on a paper just like I drew for you. Might not be to scale. It's easy to change, and it makes sense. If you have to have it east-west, why isn't it on their property that they're trying to put this development through, that they donated that land to the school? Why didn't you put the road through there? Just a question. You mind showing the other paper, please? So if you can see where the blue line is, where Ronan's trying to put Furtick Road, I could show you on topo maps that show that as an east-west water escape. And I think, Matheny, you mentioned earlier, and I think you did, Urban, also, about how much water is in that section right there where it says Michigan Avenue. It's full of water, and it goes to the east, to Center Lake. It goes that way, and you're wanting to put a road right on top of that. So how are you going to fix that? Are we going to cover it up and then we worry about it later? Just thoughts. If you look up further, the access of escape is not there. So if you put the road up further north, you don't have a problem with water flow. You want to say something or no?
Yeah, on the, have they done the road study on that yet?
I will have to ask Ms. Dunklin, who's behind you, I think, to answer some of the road questions.
Have we done a road study on that? On Michigan Avenue?
Good evening, Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. The TIA is currently under review with our Public Works and Transportation Planning.
I guess the other question, are you going to do this study during the school time of when all 3 schools are in session instead of during the summer when there's no school?
Good evening. Cameron Cranwell, Deputy Public Works Director. For the traffic impact study, we're going to be looking at maximum daily traffic, so it would probably be the time when school's in session.
I live on the road and been on the road, and that road is piled during school days. You can't get down it. People can't get off because they put a D-curve on the turn in to the Michigan Avenue Elementary and Middle School. So they're lined up all the way down to Furtick Road now. So how is this going to relieve Michigan Avenue by putting Furtick Road through? It's not. It's going to add to it, especially when you see the development that you let a development build over where Furtick Road went straight through. They put a pond and houses on Furtick Road. So you're going to develop a road that you have to divert in front of residential homes. I don't see it happening.
Thank you. Do you have any other comment?
I do. So, yeah, this is what I also wanted to bring up. So these are things I'd like you all to please listen to. It's factual. It's not just emotional. Make good decisions on this if you don't mind. Table it, redraw it, get the road on a better path. But I would also like to kind of mention a couple of things, So when I was to build my house on this road, I was sat here right in front of council, and they told me I had to get a hardship variance to build my house there. Said there's no way we want any houses in this area. My family's owned that land for over 100 years, and we have more than enough land there to put a house on 5 acres. Got one more person.
Maureen Furtick.
Yeah, I'm going to let my son do my talking. I just think it's odd how y'all turned down them townhouses on Furtick Road because one of the councilmen decided to go down and check it out, because usually none of you ever go look at the land or walk the land. You just look at the paperwork and say, oh, that looks great. I'm a realtor, 24 years, so I know what I'm talking about on that regard. Until you walk the land, till you get it tested and all that, you represent a person, you want to make sure it's buildable, okay? And the thing is, I've lived there since 1966. I've raised my 6 kids there. And I just don't even understand this at all. You all decided not to do Michigan Estates townhouses there because of this. And then you told Slade Clark that he couldn't sell the 603 for townhouses, turned that down because one of the councilmen came down, and we didn't want townhouses there, and it said it took him 2 hours to get to the property from City Hall to 603 Michigan. And he said, no way can townhouses handle it. How in the world are you thinking about putting a road through there when you got that whole subdivision that Dr. LaHoop owned, all that land, and all it is houses, rental houses no less, and it's a mess. I mean, I'm just so disappointed in y'all's decision. No one's ever looking at this really. Go down Furtick Road and find out. We had to open it up for him to build it. Then I was going to build a new home. No, you can't build a home out there. I own how many acres? 200 or 300 acres right there. And they told me I couldn't. So now you're going to do what? Think about it a little bit. Think about me that's lived there for 57 years.
Thank you, Ms. Furtick.
All right, so I'll finish up just real quick. I just wanted to show another map. If I don't mind, I'll leave it with y'all. But just like you're saying, they're allowed to vacate land or vacate right-of-ways, subdivisions, but no one ever thinks of the residents who have been here a long time that we get pushed on constantly because we don't vacate land. So I'm asking you to look at the residents that have been here that have helped this city grow. You wouldn't have a spray field or area to grow your limits if we wanted to help annex 5-acre tracts all the way to the golf course to help the city grow. And all we're asking tonight is to reevaluate, don't approve it, get it redrawed without Furtick Road coming through, down, do the alternative road up to the north. And I'm gonna leave you this picture here.
Thank you, Mr. Furtick.
Can I just explain what it is real quick? Then I'm done.
Make it quick.
So that's the St. Cloud Golf Course. Michigan Avenue goes all the way there. We've had a fire station that services our house. It has to come all the way from Pine Tree. For years, I've asked for this road to be open, even just for service vehicles. Y'all own this land. Y'all must think it's more valuable than ours because you always want to build roads on top of our land. If it's government or if it's development, you all support roads being built on other people's land. How come y'all don't have a road that services a fire station that services us? It would save 2 or 3 minutes. That's lives.
Thank you. Tim French. State your name and address, please.
My name is Timothy James French. I live at 609 East 19th Street. I've been living there for, God, I don't know, maybe since the 90s or some. Before that, I lived down the street since 78. I know, because the first episode, Battlestar Galactica, came on at 79. But anyway, all I want to say is I wish I was more knowledgeable about what you guys are doing around me. At this point, basically, all I can say is be kind. Because while I was living there, I've seen every animal in the state of Florida from my backyard. And I know you can't stop progress, and it's all gone, and it's going to be gone. But I would be like to know what you're going to put around me. And I would like some kind of barrier if I can't look at my animals anymore. I don't want to look at a chain link fence. That's all I can say.
Thanks, sir. Alyssa, are you wanting to address any of this?
There were a lot of questions asked. Do you want me to wait until the end?
Okay, yes. State your name and address for the record.
Darren Davis, Old Hickory Tree Road. We own property that is on the opposite side on Hickory Tree Road of this. And I've got concerns about the traffic because on a school day, I can't get out of my driveway. I have to go down turn right, go towards Hickory Tree, do a U-turn in the middle of the road if I want to go west towards the turnpike. That's not one day, that's just about every day. They stack up in the left-hand turn lane going up Old Hickory Tree because they can't get by the school because the traffic backs all the way up from the school all the way to Nolte Road. And to add more vehicles coming onto that road is going to be a total nightmare. Just having access on and off is going to make it real bad. Another concern I have is the elevation of this project. It's not really low land, but there is some lower land in there, and the water bleeds off of that land now into Mr. Furtick's property. Then it comes out of Furtick's property to our property. And if they elevate this property like they've done all the rest of the subdivisions in my neighborhood, we're going to be sick. Because I've got one on one side of me that's 6 or 8 foot above existing elevation, and the one on the other side's probably at least 5 or 6 or more. You know, it's fence posts are here and the dirt's up here. You know, they've got a 3-story house looking into my field. First story's all dirt. We've got some concerns about the flooding, what's going to happen, where the water's going to go, where the traffic's going to go. And I think this is a pretty poor choice of time to bring this in front of the county, or excuse me, in front of the city, because school just got out. Every time this project comes in front of the city reviewed, the school board puts a sign out, or not school board, the school people put a sign out there so every parent knows that this is coming in front of the board, that they need to put their input in. Now there's nobody coming in and out of the school. Nobody knows what's going on. And all the original approval of this project was done during COVID time. I didn't get any applications. We've got property all the way around. Didn't get any signs stuck out that we seen. The ones that went across from the school, they disappeared in a day. So I got kind of wondered. And Mrs. Furtick was talking about being here for 50 or 60 years. When I was at St. Cloud Hospital the other day, I was walking by there and Dr. McMillan's picture on the wall. Guess who sponsored the first hospital? Her father-in-law, Mr. Furtick. First hospital. You need to take that into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to this item?
Joe Thacker, 17 South Orlando Avenue, Kissimmee. I just want to address a couple of the major points that were raised, and then I would like to, if there are questions after staff has answered some questions, I'm happy to answer. The concept plan was approved by the city in 2017. The plan before you tonight follows that concept plan. So that's the reason why there's probably haven't been letters sent and things like that, because the preliminary subdivision plan follows the concept plan. The concept plan is public hearings. And so in 2017, that's when all of this was approved. So there are entitlements on the property. The stormwater will be addressed through the engineering plans, through South Florida water management permits, and will not be able to increase stormwater or flooding or anything on adjacent properties. I don't think he was adjacent to it, but it flowed through another property. We have, the developer has met with staff for many months and has worked on this plan, has tried to come up with a unified plan that addresses needs for housing that includes lots of different kinds of product. They have done mostly rear-loaded, but the major part about this project includes community center, which will bring in jobs, but it'll also hopefully allow people to walk to their retail and not Road. They've also had to, they put in, Furtick is a 4-lane divided on-street parking, and will also be improved from 19th. And the gentleman that lived on 19th Street, it won't be a fence because that's where the school up on 19th. So I'm happy to address any questions you have. I do appreciate all the time that staff has put into making sure that this plan follows the original concept plan that was approved by the city.
Thank you.
Ms. Thacker covered mostly what I was going to say about it being approved in 2017 through a concept plan approval. This development will also include a school site. We believe it's going to be a K-8, so hopefully that will help out a bit. And it also includes a fire station at the south end. And then the Furtick Road right-of-way was realigned to avoid the canal, so it won't follow the initial paper right-of-way that is there. It has been realigned in the concept plan, preliminary subdivision plan, and I don't know what other questions I can answer. Just let me know. We'll be on standby over here.
Well, the Furticks have certainly raised some questions that need to be certainly looked at and addressed by the staff, and we need to know to have the assurance that, if this is approved, that you're going to continue to address those issues that they've addressed tonight and brought before our attention tonight.
Yes, absolutely. So we have required several roadway improvements to address the traffic. I'll ask Ms. Stark to come up to talk about the required access points. We are requiring improvements to Orange Avenue, I believe Crawford, all the way to 19th Street, and then so we're stubbing out to the west, and we're making a connection to Old Hickory as well. I'll ask her to explain any of that in more detail if you need that.
Hi, good evening. Erin Strick, Transportation Manager. Yeah, just to confirm the number of access points provided by the development has 2 access points to Old Hickory Tree Road. They were increased from 1 in the early iterations to 2. There's a connection from the community center area up to 19th Street, just east of the school. And there's the Orange Avenue connection up to 19th Street as well. The connection to Furtick Road utilizes the existing right-of-way that's out there. I think there's 40 feet. There's a 4-lane avenue section for Furtick Road, but obviously that can't be implemented within 40 feet. So they're going to do a division construction plan developing a transitional section in that segment that will provide 2 lanes. It'll take what is currently a public right-of-way and make it an urban local road section. That's a 2-lane section with a sidewalk on the north side. And we think we can fit that in the 40 feet. And so that's what the plan has been, site connections.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. So I wanted to address one of the concerns about not getting notifications, because that was something I brought up probably before our 2 new members, was that our notifications were not far enough. Depending on the size of the properties, if you have a development next to single-family homes, 250 feet of notification. If you've got 10-acre tracts, it's not enough to notify. So we have since expanded. I know that doesn't help your situation, but I think that was a gap that the city had when you had large tracts of land. So that happens sometimes. But as I mentioned in an earlier item, I'm going to bring up in my time at the end. Several items on our agendas in these last few meetings that are put on, in my mind, early. So it's like the DRC hasn't happened at the time. The TIA isn't available at the time the agenda was published, which I don't think is fair. First of all, it doesn't give us time to review it. We just have to find out about it in the meeting, and you don't really have time to think about it. And then second, for the DRC, I feel like potentially, are they feeling like their comments don't matter because we're shoving it forward even before their comments happen? So I think to follow the process and not cram them together. But because of that, with the TIA not being available and the comments that the verdicts have brought up in their family here, I think we should postpone this vote.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to point out the TIA, it was done while school was in process. So that has been done. They also have been working on the project for over a year with staff. So there have been a lot of meetings with staff. We've gone through, I think, 5 different iterations to be able to make it conform to the approved concept plan. So going back to the redrawing isn't, you know, that's another year of redrawing. That's what we've been going through. So I'd like to understand the concerns to be able to address them tonight. We've got the engineer here. We've got the developer here. So, you know, we're happy to sit down with the verdicts and understand, but Furtick Road is going to be impacted by this development. I mean, that's it. I think that's really one of the major ways to get to this property and through this property. So even if you moved it up, I think there'll still be a connection. I don't know. And I think what the developer did was follow the staff recommendation of where Furtick Road would best fit in the middle of the community center. So that's where you want the main traffic to go, is with the commercial element of the plan, following the concept plan still.
Thank you, Mr. I'll let one more comment.
Okay. Well, she asked some questions, so it's progress has happened, I'm not trying to stop this. And I don't agree with it's going to take a year to draw a new road. Staff is, and what's this map not showing is Ronan gave all that land to the north. It's drawing. So the canal that you're looking at, you see the white section to the east? That white section we own on the south side, you're going to have to, what are you going to do, eminent domain for to start that process, and you think that's going to be easy? It's not easy. We get a free attorney to fight you. It costs you a lot of money. The point I'm making is that road will be, if you go up north to the side of it, this project should not be controlled by staff. Why is it even in front of you if you're not going to make the decision? I understand staff, but you're the face of the city. I'm here as a constituent of yours to ask for help. Please look at this. Look at the canal they're not showing you. You have to cross the canal. There's 2. There's a canal that goes north to south that empties out the school. If you block that up, the school will start to flood. So if y'all want to come ride, I'll show you what we're talking about. Because on paper, it looks good. South Water Management doesn't care about other properties around it. South Water Management just looks at calculations and says, yeah, you're going to contain your sheet flow. It doesn't look at the flow of the land. Topo shows you the east and west where Furtick Road is on platted map is a main east to west. If you block that, you're going to have problems with Southern Pine. You're going to have problems with phase 2 of Southern Pine. You're going to have problems with flooding. Because if we sell the south side, we're going to raise it up. Where's the water going to go?
Thank you.
I do want to understand where the road go. I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, I'm not sure we're going to solve this here
I can show you on that map.
in a council meeting.
Can we put the one map back?
No, we're not going to do that. This needs to go back to a working environment where if these questions are going to be addressed, not here at a council meeting, we can't address that adequately. You have anything else?
Address the right-of-way for Furtick Road really quickly, going to the west, and then I think we're done.
Okay.
Can I say one
Final public comment.
Okay. You remember the debacle we have with Gramercy, flooding us all out? We just do not want to start this all over again. I can go out there after we have a storm and I'll have 6 foot of water in my pasture. If we do this thing, we can start it all over again. Just like they said, if they build their property up, you got no retention pond. We build our property up, Gramercy gets flooded out.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Jim Diggs, developer, Longwood, Florida. I can appreciate all the comments, especially from my neighbors. And quite frankly, they have some merit as well. But I think what I really want to discuss real quick as you're trying to make a decision is this is approved in 2017, okay? When I took over this project like you said, right before COVID, we laid out a very efficient plan that would have actually everybody around us, except for the fact that this is an approved mixed-use concept plan, and I was told after I spent 6 months developing this plan, I couldn't do that. It had to be exactly like the approved mixed-use concept plan. I couldn't deviate from that. I did. I redrew it. I redrew it 7 times. I submitted the PSP 6 times. Okay? So it comes down to, and quite frankly, I got to admit, staff has been absolutely great to work with. Okay? We've been working with, but there's been a lot of things. I started with like 3 or 4 different planners, and it changed every single time. I would have redrawn this and I would have made it completely different, but I didn't have that option. The option that I had was it had to look exactly like the plan. Not 1 unit more, not 1 unit less. What else was I going to do? As far as some of the comments we're talking about, they flow into like the SDP. Okay, that's not the PSP. And quite frankly, this is a mixed-use concept plan. It's not really a PSP. It's a glorified process. The plan was approved in 2020. That's what we delivered. As far as the connectivity that goes to Furtick or that goes to Orange up through 19th, we didn't draw specifically meant to be there because that's what the city is going to have in their long-range plan. I don't own that land. I don't want to build any more roads than I have to build, but I want to deliver a quality product, and I what I was told. I've spent 2.5 years to deliver this product based on how your staff told me to deliver it. And I can't even tell you how much it's cost me to do it, to be very specific. And I'm fine. But it's one thing to be told 4 different ways to do something, and go redo it, and then every single time it's start from scratch, do it a different way because somebody has a different opinion. The project was approved in 2017. I did exactly what I was told to do. I think you should consider to continue to move the project along. It's been time long enough. We can address any of the concerns that the Furticks have, and I'm happy to have some legitimate concerns, but that's at SDP level. So I appreciate your time. I'm sorry for my passion and a little bit of frustration. I want to deliver a great product for the county, for the city, and I want to work with my neighbors.
Thank you very much. Do you have discussion or motion by council? Oh, Mr. Urban, your line's been on for a while.
Yeah, I was just, was going to bring up the the notices thing, but you covered that. I just wanted to echo what's been said quite a lot here. This was approved in 2017. This is something that I inherited being here on the council. And
What is approved in 2017?
Ma'am?
And so, you know, I agree with a lot of the concerns. Michigan Avenue, I drive it almost every day. During school time, it's an absolute nightmare. So is Hickory Tree Road, and I would like to that traffic off of those school roads as much as possible. I understand the frustration, the amount of time that this has taken, but I do believe that we need to work with the I'd be happy to visit your property, sir, and see in person because I know it's a lot different on paper than it is in person. But I would like to somehow work with the neighbors to come up with an agreement that works for everybody.
Any other comment from council? Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to postpone this. I don't know if we have to give a date certain. Miss,
Yeah, you want to give a date? Are you wanting to postpone it to the next meeting?
yeah, because the next meeting is when, the 27th?
July
Of
27th.
July 27th. So postpone it to the next meeting to give staff time to meet with the FERDICs and review I haven't seen the traffic impact analysis, all these things kind of came at the same time. That's my motion. Motion to postpone.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Item N has been postponed to July the 27th. Thank you.
Thank you. I was wondering if it got continued or postponed, but it's to the date certain. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Would anyone like to speak to any other item on the consent agenda? Do I have a motion that we approve the consent agenda with what remains?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, second from the mayor. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
The next item on the agenda are public hearings. Brings us to and two. Madam Clerk, will you please read those into the record?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-26, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation of private institutional to approximately 2.9 acres identified as 2351 Canoe Creek Road development located north of Furtick Road, east of Canoe Creek Road, and west of Missouri Avenue, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effect, suburbility, effective date. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-27, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, changing the zoning designation of approximately 2.91 acres identified as 2351 Canoe Creek Road from RE, single-family dwelling zoning designation, to P, professional zoning designation with a private institution use designation adopted by ordinance number 2023-26, generally located north of Furtick Road, east of Canoe Creek Road, and west of Missouri Avenue, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the recommendation and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Good evening, Council. Dagmar Sagara, Deputy Director for the Community Development. The property is located at 2351 Canoe Creek Road. This is the second reading for a future land use amendment and zoning amendment. At our last City Council meeting on June 6, this board recommended approval of the first reading with a condition to the zoning. The existing future land use is low-density residential. The proposed future land use is private institutional. The existing zoning is RE, single-family dwelling, and the proposed zoning is professional. It is compatible with the surrounding area, and it has no adverse impacts into city's facilities. I spoke last meeting of the differences in impact of the request. And in regards to density, if it remains residential as it existing, or if it goes into the office use. It's the comparison of the future land use and zoning map surrounding the property. It meets the strategic goals, growth management. Staff recommended approval, and Planning Commission also recommended approval. Your first reading is this board recommended approval for both, for the complaint amendment, and recommended approval of the zoning with the condition that the applicant to execute a restricted covenant to allow private and public schools as a conditional use. For the record, I would also would like to state that there is a scrivener's error in the zoning ordinance. It reads in that the conditional use is private or private. It should read private or public. But staff will provide the clerk's office with the amended ordinance. It is requested from staff to the board to approve this, the two ordinance, 2023-26 and 2023-27, with conditions stated by staff. And this concludes my presentation. The applicant is here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak to these items?
Good evening, council members. Jeremy Kibler, KDA Engineering, 2017 13th Street, St. Cloud, Florida, 34769. I'm here representing the owner here tonight. As you may recall, at the last meeting, we did in fact agree to add the condition that a public or a private school would be reviewed additionally by council as a conditional use. We still are in agreement with that. We do recognize the correction needed to be made to Section 3 of the ordinance. Basically just identifying private or public schools. We would also respectfully tonight ask for just a clarification with the motion for approval that the intent is that the covenant or the restriction run and be coincident with the zoning ordinance itself. We don't want it, we're basically recording a document, a separate instrument in the public record, and if we don't have that, it would just go on in perpetuity. So we'd like to have that condition that basically it runs with the ordinance. That's the intent. If we were to come back in, let's say, 10 years and change the zoning, then you would review it again at that point in time, and a new zoning would be in place at that point in time. So it runs specifically with the zoning ordinance itself. We just want to clarify that. Happy to answer any questions.
Melissa, do you need to speak to that?
Yes, I wasn't prepared to address this, so I don't know the exact land development code section. Okay, Dagmary's going to find that, but in our code, traditionally or typically, you do not condition straight zonings. That's what you have your PUDs for and other zoning mechanisms for. So what our code allows is if there are any restrictions that they are recorded by deed with the property, not as part of the ordinance. And we do want the conditions to be in or be required in perpetuity. So if that ever changes, it will take a council action to remove it rather than someone come in and just change the zoning.
That's correct.
Dagmary?
Dagmary Segarra. Our land development code in our section 3.4.3 it specifically refers to a covenant that these restrictions can be added into a zoning through a covenant. And that's the recommendation from staff.
Would you like to speak to that
So
again?
the covenant would just be signed and recorded, that's it?
That's not exactly correct. Again, Jeremy Kibler, KDA Engineering. If you look at LDC 3.4.3 C2 B10, it basically states, and may be removed only upon further amendment to the zoning classification of the subject property in accordance with the procedures prescribed herein. So it specifically provides exactly what I'm stating here tonight, in that if it would take council action. So if a subsequent zoning ordinance was brought forward, it would be reviewed by you, and again, you could add the same condition again at that point in time, or if it made sense for some reason to have that use, you could just approve the zoning if it was a permitted use. It may be a conditional use, or it may not be allowed at all. I just would hate to not have the forethought to record a restriction that would go on in perpetuity. That's not really the idea. It's intended to go specifically with the zoning ordinance here tonight. And if nothing was done, we have to bring this forward, a public or a private school, as a conditional use. Again, that's not the intent, but it does provide that protection, and it would require additional council action. And again, it is provided for exactly as I stated in the land development code. That's what it states. Specifically, a further amendment to the zoning classification of the subject property. That's specifically what it states. Thank you.
Ms. Ms. Green, are
address
you,
that issue, I still am in agreement that the proper protocol would be to sign and record the covenant, not do what is requested, and I think we get there without that additional requirement.
could you pull the mic up?
I always think I'm so loud, that we still get there, that just sign and record the covenant, and I don't think that it is necessary to do anything further.
Thank you. I'll give you another shot.
So I was, again, Jeremy Kibler, KDA Engineering. I was provided specifically an example restrictive covenant that staff recorded for another project. So I'm just using exactly what was provided by staff. In that restrictive covenant, it provides a specific term period. It provides specific severability, and it talks about how it can be amended or terminated. You almost never see a document that's recorded like this that has no chance for amendment, that would just go on and on. And again, I'm just looking at, this is a document that was recorded maybe a year ago, provided by city staff, and it provides for amendment. Matter of fact, I'll read section 14. Amendment and termination. This covenant may only be amended or terminated in whole or in part by the written consent of the owner and the city manager. So that's just one example. Again, we're not, we want to be cooperative. As you recall, we did offer that restrictive covenant. We don't think we're asking for too much here. I just would hate to have no chance to amend that restriction at any point, 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment? Would anyone else in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and/or motion by council at this point. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. I'm not 100% sure which way we're supposed to go, but I would defer to our attorney on how the best way to handle this. And when you're saying the way you're proposing it, is it have an opportunity for amendment in the future?
Yeah, there would be opportunity for amendment in the future. Not only that, the language has already been incorporated with regard to the ordinance, so that language is already there, and the proper procedure would be to have the developer sign the covenant. Now, as to what the developer is referring to, we can get with staff later on if there's something else we need to address, but at this moment, my position or my opinion still stands.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Let me clarify, as was stated by following the counsel of our attorney.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a motion for adoption following the counsel of our attorney for ordinance number 2023-26. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 2. Do I have a motion and/or discussion regarding ordinance number 2023-27?
So moved.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny, a second from the mayor. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to items 3 and 4. Madam Clerk, please read those in the record.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-28, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, assigning a future land use designation of commercial to approximately 3.34 acres identified as Mi Nolte, located south of Nolte Road, east of Michigan Avenue, and west of Delaware Avenue, providing for amending the official future land use map of the comprehensive plan, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation and proof of publication, applicability and effects, severability, copies on files, and effective date. Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-29, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, providing for the zoning amendment of the zoning map of the Land Development Code of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, specifically changing the zoning designation of approximately 3.34 acres identified as Mi Nolte from A, agriculture, and RE, single-family dwelling zoning designation to HB, highway business zoning designation with commercial future land use designation adopted by ordinance number 2023-28 generally located south of Nolte Road, east of Michigan Avenue, and west of Delaware Avenue, providing for entering the designation on the official zoning map, filing of the Planning Commission recommendation, and proof of publication, suburbility, and effective date.
Good evening, Melissa Dunklin, Community Development Director. That's a mouthful. Community Development Director. This is the final public hearing for the Comprehensive Plan Amendment and Zoning Map Amendment for the project known as Nolte. The existing future land use is low-density residential. The proposed future land use is commercial. The existing zoning is agricultural and rural estates, single-family dwelling, and the proposed zoning is highway business. The development is compatible with the surrounding area, and there are no adverse impacts on city facilities. This chart just represents the residential development regulations by zoning districts for the existing RE agricultural zoning, and then it shows the proposed highway business development regulations. The total net developable area is 3.34 acres, and so with the existing future land use, there are an allowance of 4 dwelling units per acre, and the potential number of lots by zoning would be 4 lots for the RE and 1 lot for the agricultural. The proposed floor area ratio for highway business is 0.75, which would equate to a maximum of 54,558.9 square feet. Here's a graphic representation of the existing future land use and the zoning maps for context. This request meets the strategic plan goal for growth management. DRC and staff reviewed this request and recommends approval, and Planning Commission on May 16th also recommended approval. The first hearing was on June 8th, 2023, and council did approve this item to move forward to this final hearing, and we are requesting that you approve ordinance number 2023-28 and 29. Staff is available for any questions, and I believe the applicant is also available.
Would the applicant like to speak to these items?
Steve Romkey, St. Cloud, Florida. Unless you have any questions, I have nothing.
Thank you very much. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to these items? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. What is the pleasure of the council? Beginning with item number 3, ordinance number 2023-28.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Urban. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Do we have a motion and or discussion regarding the next ordinance, number 2023-29?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Councilmember Urban. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 5 into the record?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-30, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, to annex into the City of St. Cloud, Florida, approximately 14.36 acres, identified as Old Hickory Tree Estates, located north of Gramercy Farms Road, west of Hickory Tree Road, and east of Old Hickory Tree Road, in accordance with the voluntary annexation provisions of Chapter 171.044 Florida statutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Dagmar Segarra, Deputy Director, Community Development. This is the final hearing for an annexation of property located on Old Hickory Tree, stated by City Clerk. The staff recommends approval. It is contiguous to the city, and it abuts the city limits on the eastern property boundary. The existing county future land use is low-density residential, and the existing county zoning is R2, rural settlement, and AC, agriculture and conservation. It meets the strategic goal of growth management. Staff recommended approval, and Planning Commission also recommended approval of this annexation. This board at this council at the 6/8 meeting also recommended approval, and in this final hearing, staff recommends approval of ordinance 2023-30 for the annexation of the property. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is here also to answer any questions.
Would the applicant like to speak to this request for annexation? If not, would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Yes, sir, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey Smith, 3341 Buckingham Way. I'm the pastor of City of Life Church. The City of Life has been here since 1986. My parents started the church. I went to St. Cloud High School, and first of all, thank you so much for what you do for our city, and I love the way St. Cloud is growing. I'm happy to be a part of it. Been a part of it since I was a kid, but this particular property is on the back side of property that the church owns 10 acres that we bought in 2017. That area is already drastically different than it was when we bought it for all kinds of potential uses, everything from, we've been talking about doing a kind of a rehab place there, talking about doing all kind of stuff for people to relax and just kind of find themselves again. And it's kind of just sat there, though, because we're not completely sure exactly what we want to do with it, but we know we didn't buy it and purchase it, and I feel like that we even had an incredible opportunity to have something like that, to be in the middle of everything that's going on there. And I just think when you look at the number of houses they're trying to put right there, right up against the back of the property, like I think 53 houses or something like that, not only does it make the traffic just absurd, and I think that you can barely even drive through there now. I've never come, I mean, I'm happy with the way our city has been going and the development of what's happened. I'm really proud of people that are from our city. They're helping it become better all the time. Never really asked anything like this before, but yeah, I don't even know the process. I didn't bring a lawyer or anything like that. I just wanted to share kind of the way we feel and kind of my heart on the issue. I just don't get why. I had lots of people calling me trying to buy the property because they wanted to turn ours into something with like 90-something condos or something, and we turned down some pretty big offers that people were making to sell the property to them to turn it into that. And I would just say that I know the neighbors that are around there and me. If you really look at a map and look where Gramercy is on the other side of the road, I just don't think that, I mean, you already got on the other side of Hickory Trees just big, huge developments. That's the last little area where there's some actual homes there that are on those 5 and 10 acre plots. And I would just say, please don't approve something like that would change the lifestyle of the people that are there. That would just be what I would ask.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Sure.
Would anyone else like to speak to this? If not, we'll have...
Sorry, if I may, I just wanted to remind council that this application is only for annexation, not to approve any specific development, and keeping in mind that if we do not annex this land, they can go directly to the county and develop it with the existing entitlements. And if you recall, their low-density residential allows up to 8 dwelling units per acre, and that's low. So if it's rezoned or changed to medium or high, then their entitlements will be much higher than in the city.
Thank you. We'll have discussion and motion by council. Councilmember Urban.
Yes, I was just going to repeat what Melissa just said. I definitely sympathize with this gentleman, and I just would like to say this is an annexation, and if we don't annex it, it will defer back to the county, who has much more dense, allows for a lot more density in this area. So while I would love to keep it the way it is there, I think this is simply, it gives us more control as a city to craft this the way that the city pleases. So that's all I wanted to say.
Do we have any other comment from council? Could I entertain a motion for the adoption of this ordinance?
Motion.
We have a motion from Councilmember Gilbert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, will you please read item number 6?
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-31, an ordinance of the City Council amending the City of St. Cloud General Employees Retirement System, amending Section 6, benefits, amounts, and eligibility, providing for codification, providing for severability of provisions, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Good evening, Justin Kleesner, Human Resources Director. The item before you tonight is to approve a one-time cost of living increase to our general pension participants. This is similar to what we did for our police and fire pension a few months ago. And again, we'll be bringing forward a long-term fix, so we're not doing all these one-time ad hoc adjustments moving forward. So that'll be coming up in the next, I don't know, few months probably. So staff recommends approval to this, this ordinance.
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion, a motion by council.
So moved.
We have a motion for adoption by Councilmember Matheny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Please read item number 7 into the record.
Final public hearing for ordinance number 2023-32, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, City Council, Division 1, generally Section 2.31, salary to provide and establish the City Council salaries based on future population growth, providing for effective date, providing that council members holding a council seat as of the date of this ordinance is adopted shall not be eligible for an increase unless that council member has been reelected or reappointed after final adoption hereof, providing for severability, conflict, and codification.
Hello again, Justin Kleesner, Human Resources Director. After 2 council workshops, we talked about council salaries, and the recommendation was put forward to find ways to increase salaries to be more commensurate with our population. We looked at a few different models, and we settled on the model that was similar to the city of Kissimmee's, which adjusts for population annually using the state's provided census calculations. Again, if you approve this ordinance tonight, this would not take immediate effect. It would only apply to those council members who are elected or reelected at their next term or appointed thereafter. Staff recommends approval for this item.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and a motion by council. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
No.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Madam Clerk, please read item number 8.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2023-33, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance of the City of St. Cloud, Florida to remain in compliance with updated state legislation to include Chapter 2, Administration, Article 6, Code Enforcement, Chapter 6, Amusements and Entertainments, Article 2, Adult Entertainment Code, Chapter 10, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 2, Technical Codes, Chapter 10, Building and Building Regulations, Article 3, Construction Industry, Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Chapter 12, Businesses, Chapter 14, Cable Communications, Chapter 24, Environment, Article 6, Tree Preservations, Chapter 36, Solid Waste, Article 3, Collection and Disposal, Chapter 40, Taxation, Article 4, Local Business Tax, and Chapter 46, Vehicles for Hire. Article 2, Taxi cabs and limousines, providing for severability, conflicts, codification, administrative corrections, publication, and effective date.
Thank you. Hi, Dave Tomek, Assistant City Manager. This is one of a few cleanup ordinances you're going to have over the next 6 months. It addresses the Code of Ordinances for all the chapters that Claudia so nicely read. The Muni Code periodically gives an update, reviews our codes against new state law through the years. So this brings you up to date through 2022 sessions. Specifically, Chapter 2. An example is the code enforcement one. There was a provision that said that if it's an anonymous complaint, we can't do anything with it. So we updated your code to reflect what the statute required. There was a big preemption drive where they preempted us from licensing things such as your adult entertainment code. Basically, the provisions for operations, your standards are still in there, but it prohibits the city from actually issuing a permit or license for that. For your building codes, for the technical codes, we've updated it to adopt the 2021 version of the International Property Maintenance Code. With that comes filling in some blanks as far as the building department being the code administrator for that. The licensing for businesses, you all followed the local business tax. We still have the certificate of use, but we had to get rid of what they call a business license. Same thing, Chapter 14 was deleted in its entirety because you were preempted from regulating communications. Which is pretty much, it follows it down the line. This is specifically for Chapter 10, for the technical codes. As I mentioned, we adopted the 2021 edition. It removed the section on fees, added a section on the agency that takes care of it. And there was some typos in there, so we cleaned up the typos while we were at it. This meets your strategic planning goals. Like I said, it's going to be one of many over the next 6 months. Recommendation is for approval of ordinance 2023-33. Requested action is approval. This is your first reading, introduction. The final adoption hearing is scheduled for July 27th. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Please state your name and address.
Good evening, Mayor. Bill Barrett, 1102 Pennsylvania. I wanted to speak to you on this item, specifically the Chapter 10 revisions. You're revising the 2009 International Property Maintenance Code to the 2021 Property Maintenance Code. First of all, housekeeping issue. Florida Statute, Chapter 166.041, Municipalities and Procedures for Adoption of Ordinance, Paragraph 2. No ordinance shall be revised or amended by reference to its title only. Ordinances to revise or amend shall set out in full the revised or amended act, sections or subsection. The 2021 IPMC is not in the expanded agenda, so at this time it's just being referenced by title only, and it's not actually laying out what the 2021 IPMC is, which is what's required by statute. That's one. Secondly, this issue's been going on since at least since March, and there have been a number of your citizens who have been charged under the 2021 IPMC, when in actuality the 2009 IPMC was the one that was in effect. So, and since March, it's been known by staff that this is needed to come back to y'all and be updated to codify the correct code and adopt the correct code. It's interesting that, there's different people, including, like Karam Dougal, who I know has reached out to council members about his development project. He was cited under the 2021 code. So I'm not sure how you can cite someone under a code that you haven't even adopted yet. So that's a little bit problematic as well. But, to the point, it would be good to be able to lay the whole thing out, which is what that statute says. That statute was passed in 1973. There's nothing new about it. So if we could get that laid out in the second reading so everybody, citizens and everybody else can see exactly what it says that you're adopting, that'd be great. And then, there should be some consideration given to looking and saying how many of your citizens, people like Ms. Vasquez downtown here and others, were cited under this code when the code didn't even exist. And we could jump through a lot of hoops and we can, gnash teeth and et cetera, to try and get there, okay? But it's a real question of how you can charge someone under a code that you haven't even adopted yet. So those are the main things. Like I say, I hope on second reading that we see what the entire act is that you're adopting. And I appreciate y'all's time this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? This is a first reading, and if those things need to be addressed, you can certainly address that. Can you not, Mr. Termite?
Yes, sir. I'll follow up with the city attorney's office and make sure that we follow the required guidelines.
Thank you.
In the interim, I would just want to clarify the way that.
Could you put your mic up, please?
The way that it's written even currently, it allows for the inclusion of amendments or versions in the future. So that is already covered. Just because of this glitch ordinance, we're just specifically using this time to specifically relate to the 2021 version. But as already written, it's our opinion that that's already covered.
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that discussion because it's under litigation, so.
Right, and anything, correct, and anything about any potential litigation moving forward, we won't address tonight anyway.
Right.
Thank you. This time we'll have discussion and motion by council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion from Councilmember Matheny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Gilbert. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, should please read item number 9 into the record.
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2023-34, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, closing, vacating, and abandoning the platted right-of-way located east of Cross Prairie Parkway and west of Grassfield Lane, specifically described in the body of this ordinance, providing for suburbility, conflicts, and effective date.
Good evening, Melissa Dunklin again, Director of Community Development. The request before you tonight is for the abandonment of right-of-way for the property depicted there. The applicant is requesting the abandonment of 478.54 square feet of platted right-of-way along Grassfield Lane to install a 2-foot, 1-inch by 15-foot entrance sign. Here's a graphic representation of the proposed abandonment and sign tract. It looks like the highlight kind of floated off the circle there. So the yellow highlight doesn't mean anything. It was supposed to highlight the circled area. This request was routed for review and there were no objections received. This request meets the strategic plan goal for infrastructure. DRC and staff reviewed this item and recommends approval. Likewise, it is requested that council approve ordinance number 2023-34. The applicant is available for any questions and staff is also available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Would the applicant like to speak to this?
Good evening. Cameron Handel, 8 Broadway, Kissimmee, Florida. Here to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you very much. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and motion by council.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Councilmember Athenia, second from the mayor. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny? Aye. Deputy Mayor Urban? Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could you read item number 10 into the record, please?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2023-35, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, closing, vacating, and abandoning the platted right-of-way located east of Cross Prairie Parkway and west of Leatherwood Pass, specifically described in the body of this ordinance, providing for suburbility, conflicts, and effective date.
Good evening again. Melissa Dunklin, Director of Community Development. This case before you tonight is another request for an abandonment of right-of-way for a tract for a subdivision sign to be located in the median. The applicant is requesting this abandonment of 323.04 square feet of platted right-of-way to install a 3-foot by 18-foot entrance sign. Again, here's a graphic representation. The yellow should be on the highlighted tract. Sorry, I don't know why it floated away. We routed this request for review. There were no objections received. This request meets the strategic plan goal for infrastructure. On May 19th, 2023, staff and DRC approved this ordinance. Likewise, it is requested that council approve ordinance number 2023-35. Both staff and the applicant are available for questions.
Would the applicant like to speak to this item?
Cameron Handel, 8 Broadway, Kissimmee. Here to answer any questions you guys have.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? Not, we'll have discussion and motion by council. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion for Councilmember Urban, a second from Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Could you please read item number 11 into the record, Madam Clerk?
First reading and introduction for ordinance number 2023-36, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinance of the City of St. Cloud, Florida to remain in compliance with updated state legislation to include Chapter 18, Community Developments, Article 2, Affordable Housing, Chapter 26, Human Relations, Article 2, Fair Housing, providing for suburbility, conflicts, codification, administrative corrections, publication, and effective date.
Thank you. Dave Tomac with the City Manager's Office, Mayor, Council. This is the second in a series of ordinances to clean up and catch up on some of your codes. These 2 chapters address affordable housing and the Fair Housing Act. Basically, they reword it like every couple of years to where you almost have to just copy and paste it into your ordinance. So that's what we did. For the initial one on Chapter 18, it was okay to do the underline and strike through, but for the fair housing one, pretty much I just deleted what we had and copied what the statutes had, because they shifted the organization and everything so much that you would have just been totally confused by strike-through underlines. So I hope that's okay. This brings us up to date as of the 2022 session, so hopefully over the next couple of years, that'll stay up to date with state statutes. Be happy to answer any questions. No cute animal pictures this time. By next month, I'll try to throw something in that'll keep you awake.
All right. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion and or motion by council. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion for approval from Councilmember Urban. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilmember Fletcher. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Madam Clerk, could you please read item number 12 into the record?
Public hearing for resolution number 2023-114R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, amending resolution number 2022-188R, which adopted the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget for the City of St. Cloud, Florida, finding the city manager has certified there are prior year fund balances and or current revenues available in the budget for additional projects and programs and various funds not included in the original budget, requiring the budget to be increased to include said additional fundings in the various funds and making supplemental appropriations within the funds.
Good evening, Jeff Cooper, Interim Finance Director. This is Budget Amendment Number 5, and the background is the same as per City Code, Section 2-212, amendments after adoption. If during the fiscal year, the manager certifies that there are available for appropriation revenues in excess of those estimated in the budget, the City Council may, by resolution, make supplemental appropriation for the year up to the amount of each excess. The city manager has certified funds are available to appropriate funds. This budget amendment meets the city's strategic plan goal for financial sustainability. First is Capital Projects Fund, an increase of $428,502. That's increasing revenue from interfund transfer by $428,502 and increasing expenditures for contractual services by $60,000 and increased expenditures for other improvements by $368,502 for the following projects. PR 2105, the skate park, that's the $368,502, and ST 2202, Sergeant Graham and Neptune Signal, that's $60,000 additional just for the completion of that project. Parks impact fee, 0 increase. Increase expenditures for intergovernmental transfers by the $368,502 and decrease contingency expenditures by $368,502 for the previously mentioned project PR 2105 skate park, which is the next item after this item. Police impact fee fund, $0 increase. Increase expenditures for machinery and equipment by $450,000 and decrease contingency expenditures by $450,000 for the purchase of an armored deployment vehicle. Mobility impact fee fund, 0 increase. Increase expenditures for intergovernmental transfers by $60,000 and decrease contingency expenditures by $60,000 for project ST 2202 Sergeant Graham and Neptune Signal. Stormwater fund, $200,000 increase. Increase revenue from state grants by $200,000 and increase expenditures for contractual services by $200,000 to provide funding for the FDEP Resilient Florida grant. This grant provides funding for a stormwater vulnerability assessment. Staff recommendation is approval of Resolution 2023-114R, and City Council requested action is approval as well. Any questions?
Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, we'll have discussion or motion by council.
So moved.
We have a motion for Councilmember Matheny.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Urban. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Gilbert?
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny?
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban?
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is council action. Brings us to item number 1. Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 2023-125R, a resolution of the City Council of the City of St. Cloud, Florida, authorizing the city manager to enter into a first amendment to the agreement dated October 31st, 2019, between the City of St. Cloud and Team Paint Enterprises, Inc., whose subject matter is RFP number 2019-127, skate park design, build, and providing an effective date.
Good evening. Michael Tenaro, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation. I lost all the audience. I'm here to talk about something fun.
It's all fun.
I'm here to talk about the skate park construction at our Ted Broda Park. Our request is to approve the Resolution 2023-124R to amend the Resolution 2019-212R with the skate park design build with Team Paint Enterprises, Inc. A little background on this project. The original project start date was in October 2019. When we did boring samples and had environmental studies at the original site, which was Wheel Park over on Peghorn Way, it proved an excessive amount of remediation concerns. The estimated remediation and waste removal costs at Wheel Park location were very cost prohibitive at the time. Due to the pandemic and environmental concerns, the project was put on quite a delay. Other locations were presented to the City Council at a workshop in January of 2022. Ted Broda Park was selected as the final approved site. Site work analysis has now been completed at this site, and it is determined to be the proper location. Moving forward, the city will use the approved design concept based on the 2 public workshops and the public's input and comments to create the skate park originally at Wheel Park. That original park was approximately 10,850 square feet. At this new location at Ted Broda, the complete design will be approximately 13,000 square feet to include the bowl extension, as you can see in the pictures. From the inception of this project in 2019, Team Payne has been working with the city to coordinate a timeline and a design that would fit into the new location. Team Payne needed to establish a working schedule that would fit into the city's time frame to start and complete the project. Team Payne is committed to begin this construction next month, July of 2023. And the city will also utilize some staff to perform some site work for other access to the roads and areas in the park. These are just some renderings that Team Payne has provided to us about what it would look like, obviously carrying the pathway over to the skate park from where the tennis courts are. Requested action. Amend the 2019 agreement, which was to create a street course at Wheel Park. The updated total contract cost is $1,068,446.50, which includes the base cost, $971,315, plus the 10% contingency. These fees are based on the current labor and material markets, which continue to increase. Due to the volatile markets, these prices are locked only until the end of 2023. Team Payne has provided a project timeline. If we do begin in July, the DEP permit has been issued to us. If they do get to start in July, hopefully everything will be completed and closeout will be in November. Staff recommendation is to approve resolution number 2023-125R, which is amending the resolution 2019-212R. And our requested action is approval of additional funds. If you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. And also, if you have any direct questions, Tim Payne is here from Team Payne Enterprises. He was nice enough to come if you had any direct questions.
Do you have one?
I have mine on also.
Do you want to go you first?
You were first.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm super excited. I was at the kickoff at 17th Street when this whole thing started, and one of my friends, my good friend's son, was a big skateboarder. He might have aged out of it because it took so long, but he was super into it at the time, you know, so was very involved. And then I was just thinking as you were talking, and our new city manager is probably unaware of this, but back in like 2019, 2020, I had reached out to one of our local concrete plants to see if they would be willing to donate some concrete to the project, and they were. So maybe that could help with things. I'll get with the city manager later, but I know our previous city manager was aware of it. Also, one of my questions, because I burn like a tater tot, was, is there any shade for anybody? So I know that's a phase 2 project that they're working on, just if anybody's wondering, you know, because I was like, where are the parents going to sit? Where's the shade? You know, all those things. I do know they have some park benches available that they're going to be able to utilize, but that's a phase 2. And then I had also asked the city manager, which might be what she's going to say, to increase the contingency because it wasn't even at 10% of the project. And I deal with the construction all the time, and I said, that's really tight. You're going to possibly have a challenge. And so that's, if you noticed, it went up to 10%. It was like 60 some odd in the agenda package. But that's it. I'm really excited. I can't wait. Maybe I'll learn how to skateboard.
Can I just say something real quick? I'm going to let you speak in just a moment.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Mrs. Matheny was correct. I wanted to clarify that the original package did not have a 10% contingency. The prices that were shown during the presentation did include a 10% contingency. So when you make your motion, if you could include the 10% contingency.
All right. Thank you. Are you Mr. Payne or?
Yes. It wasn't on, I'm Tim Payne from Winter Springs, Florida, 890 Northern Way. On the way driving over here, it's been 4 years since we've done the public input meetings with huge amounts of people, and we got like 300, online submissions filled out. And I didn't remember this until the drive over here, but originally there's two parks. There's a skate park and a bike park. So the skate park's just all street features and the bike park's all transitions. And during, some of you guys might have been looking at the design and said, why did the design get bigger? It's because that's a segregated park where only the skaters can ride the skate park and the bikers ride the bike park. So they asked it to be integrated. So that's why their wishes was to have the bowl added on to the design. And I apologize, I just forgot all about that, but that's why the size is larger. So this park can have, inline skating, biking, and skateboarding all participating at the same spot. So thank you, I hope that clarifies any questions.
Thank you. Would anyone in the audience like to speak to this item? If not, Councilmember Urban.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is this is the fun part of the job. I'm really excited for this, and I look forward to all of us dropping in on the bowl for the ribbon cutting. So.
Ribbon cutting? It's making me ride a bike, maybe.
Colby, I'm still 60.
I can't even ride a rodeo cart.
It was a wagon. It was a wagon.
Any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve with the additional contingency.
A second.
And we have a second from Councilmember Urban and a motion from Councilmember Matheny with the 10% contingency increase. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Brings us to item number 2. Madam Clerk.
Discussion and possible action regarding the appointment to seat number 2 on the Police and Firefighter Pension Board.
Our city clerk.
Yes, applicant before you is Fran Reinhardt, and he is requesting reappointment to seat 2, and it is an at-large appointment.
Is there anyone in the audience that'd like to speak to this item? If not, we'll entertain a motion or discussion by council.
Motion approved.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Gilbert, second from Councilmember Matheny. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Matheny.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Urban.
Aye.
Councilmember Gilbert.
Aye.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Aye.
Mayor Blackwell.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
And we have a new board member. Ms. Green, it's good to have you here today. Thank you for filling in for Mr. Manzares. Do you have anything for us this afternoon?
Nothing further. It's just a pleasure to be here. I feel like I went through a storm in Kansas to get here, but
Did you click your heels?
Right. Other than that, just a pleasure to see everyone. Thank
We're
you.
glad you made it. Our city manager, Ms. Miller.
Thank you. First, I'd like to let everybody know that I think City Hall is going to be closed on July 4th and wish everyone a happy 4th of July. Also, City Council a few years ago approved an investment policy that requires the city manager to get 8 hours of investment training. So I just wanted you to know on Saturday I will be thinking of you when I am at the Florida Government Finance Officers Association 8 hours of investment training.
Those will all be sweet, kind, loving thoughts.
Yes, yes. And that is everything. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Matheny.
Thank you. First, I would like to say I don't really feel sorry for the city manager, seeing how she just returned from a 600-day vacation.
That's why I picked Saturday.
Yeah. I have 2 items I wanted to bring up. So recently, Osceola County entered into an interlocal agreement with Toho Water Authority. Basically, to eliminate the duplicative bonding requirements. So like if a project was happening in Osceola County, they would have to get a bond, Toho would have to get a performance and payment bond, and then the county, they'd have to get one for the county. You know, it just created this duplicative bonding process. And so for efficiency and effectiveness and, you know, working together with other governments, they entered it into an interlocal that eliminates this requirement when it's county and Toho. And I just was in a conversation this week where someone was complaining about the fact they have to get bonding for the city of St. Cloud and Toho Water Authority. So I was wondering if the other council members agreed, I would send the ILA to the city manager so she could look at it, and maybe the city could do something similar with that. It's just a
Are there any
streamlining.
objection?
It's just a streamlining
There are no
thing.
objections?
Okay. Then my second item is, I've alluded to it a couple times tonight, is, I don't know if you noticed it reading through the last couple agendas, it's like, this is on the agenda before it went to the DRC, this is on the agenda before this happened, this was on the agenda, and I said, I don't want to do this anymore, because I feel like I want all the information, and I want to think about it, not like being handed it, you know, as I'm running into the meeting, you know, and so I just wanted to see if everyone agreed, like, let's follow timelines, and if it's not ready, well, then it doesn't get on the agenda. Everybody agrees? You got 3?
I see 3.
Yeah. Okay. That's it for me. Thank you.
My only issue is I don't think you can say that has to be an absolute law forever, because there can become,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
need to trust
right.
their wisdom, but understand that's what we'd like to have done.
Right. It's just seeming like it's
Not a
it's
mandate.
habit now. Like
Yeah.
there was at least 3 items on this agenda that weren't through the process.
Gotcha.
So Councilmember Matheny, so this is a goal, and moving forward, how you'd like to see packages brought forth, and Mayor, you're correct, there's going to be instances
Sure.
where that's not available, but staff understands this is the goal of the council.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if I could clarify, I know staff wrote on there that the DRC hadn't happened yet, but I just want to clarify, PSPs don't have to go to a formal DRC meeting.
But that was just one of the items, right?
That was, I think it was 2 of them. It was
Okay.
2 of them. So I just wanted to clarify, like, we're taking an extra step, and I understand that looked bad because we're taking that extra step to put it on the agenda at the formal meeting. But we will follow your direction.
Great.
Mr. Irvin?
I do not have anything. Hope to see everyone at the lakefront for fireworks on 4th of July.
Mr. Gilbert?
I'd like to tip my hat to Representative Soto for working for us for 10th Street. I think he did a wonderful job getting the grant, and we'd like to thank our representatives out there for working for St. Cloud, and of course the staff for every day that they come here and do the grind.
Councilmember Fletcher?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
I too would like to just publicly thank Representative Darren Soto for all the work that he's done, helping to secure the $1.2 million grant from the Transportation Department. And that will go a long ways, making a huge difference in 10th Street, long overdue. Which brings us to our information and reports section. Thursday, July the 20th, there will not be a city council meeting. It's been canceled. It has been moved to Thursday, July the 27th, at our regular time, 6:30 p.m. here at City Hall. I'd like to remind you there will be a special event that our city is participating in and sponsoring July the 4th, and I would like to also echo hope to see you all there. We have issued a proclamation in recognition of Parks and Recreation Month. Available for your review is warrant list number 13. The Recreation Advisory Committee minutes for April are available for your review, and they have been approved. There are no other items on our agenda. With that, we will be adjourned. Thank you for participating in your government.
All right. I will be working with you and Dan on an interlocal.